Chapter 22. Kate's chin trembled. What if I've already broken everything? Then lucky for you, some things grow back stronger when they break. Kate laughed softly into her friend's shoulder. Suki pulled back and looked at her, smiling with tired eyes. This whole thing, honestly, it feels like a romance movie. Lonely artists, second chances, guilt, fog. A bar named the Hollow Lantern? I mean, come on. Kate rolled her eyes, wiping tears. If this ends in a tragic montage, I'm blaming you. If it ends in a kiss in the rain, I'm taking credit. They both laughed. Kate looked toward the door. You sure you've got them? Suki nodded. Go. You got something that needs to find you. As Kate pulled out of the driveway, she caught Liam's small hand waving from the window. She smiled, but her stomach twisted, because she wasn't sure what she was walking into, only that this time she wasn't going to run. The road stretched in a ribbon of grays and golds. Hills rose and fell in the distance like a sleeping animal. Kate drove in silence. No music, no podcasts, just the hum of tires and the wind pressing at the edges of the car. She didn't know why it was this particular drive, an hour, give or take, that brought everything back. Not Berlin, not the train station, not the emails. But that night, the one she hadn't let herself think about in months. The night she found the pills, she gripped the steering wheel tighter. He hadn't lied. She'd known it then, the moment he said, They're old, I haven't taken them, I swear to you, Katie, and she had believed him. But belief wasn't the point, trust was, and trust meant more than knowing the truth. It meant accepting it without needing control. She hadn't been able to do that. She'd felt the floor tilt under her. The fear had returned, fast, cold, and ruthless. She saw her father in the shadow behind River's eyes, and she panicked. She'd raised her voice, told him to leave, thrown a wall up so fast it almost cracked her ribs, and River, had just looked at her like she'd ripped out something tender from inside him, because she had. I broke it, she whispered now, her voice barely audible over the engine. I broke something we hadn't even finished building. She blinked fast. You idiot, she said aloud to herself. He told you. He let you see him. And you slammed the door. It had been easier weeks later to pretend it was his fault, that he wasn't trying hard enough, that he hadn't changed, but the truth she had been afraid of loving someone who might need her. Not just adore her, not just flirt or ache, or whisper poetry in her hair. But I need to. And now, as trees blurred past her window and the GPS told her she was 20 minutes out, she realized something brutal. She'd rather hold River through every relapse and spiral than spend one more night lying to herself that she didn't care. Her fingers trembled on the wheel. What if he doesn't want you anymore? The thought stabbed through her. What if she'd pushed too hard, too far? What if she got to the Hollow Lantern and he looked at her the way she once looked at that bottle in his bag? Like something dangerous? She swallowed, then turned off the motorway toward the town. The sky was pinking. Her heart thundered. She was almost there. The town was small, the kind where the streets curved like they'd grown that way, not been built. Cobblestones peeked through the edges of cracked pavement, and flower baskets hung from leaning lampposts like earrings on an aging debutante. Kate parked across from the pub. The Hollow Lantern, it glowed warm through the late dusk, amber light flickering through the windows. The sign above the door was hand-painted, chipped around the edges. A wrought iron lantern hung beside it, gently swaying in the breeze. She sat for a moment in the car, gripping the steering wheel, unsure if she could make her legs move. But she hadn't come this far to leave without answers. She stepped out, pulled her coat tighter, and crossed the street. The door creaked as she opened it. Inside, it smelled like aged wood and cardamom and something faintly smoky. Not cigarettes, but the kind of scent that lingered in firelit places where people told secrets. Few locals glanced up and went back to their drinks. And behind the bar, drying a glass with easy, familiar hands, her, the woman from the photo. But up close, she was something entirely different than the blurred image Kate had stared at with suspicion. Dana looked older than she'd imagined, late 60s probably. She wore her silver hair half pulled back. Her spine curved a little at the shoulders, as though life had pressed its thumb gently but insistently into her back for years. Her eyes were kind, not the kind of kindness that flinches or flatters, the kind that endured. Kate hadn't expected this. She didn't know what she'd expected, but not this. Not someone who looked so human. The woman caught her staring, blinked once, then smiled. Not a smug smile, not a knowing smile, but a recognition, soft, sad, and unsurprised. Kate, she said quietly. Kate's breath caught. You know who I am? Dana nodded. Of course I do. Sit down, love. Kate sat at the end of the bar, unsure whether she was more afraid or relieved. Dana set down her towel and joined her with a measured breath. Neither spoke for a beat. Then Kate said, I saw the photo. Dana nodded gently. The hug. I thought. Kate shook her head. I didn't know who you were. That's all right, Dana replied. I don't think you were meant to. Kate looked at her, voice low. Ireland sent it to me. Dana didn't flinch. Of course she did. She's been clawing at River's peace for months. Kate's mouth twisted. I thought you were his girlfriend. Dana laughed, not mockingly, but as though the idea tickled something old and almost sweet in her. No, darling. Lord, no, I'm old enough to be his mother. I am. Kate blinked. But in the photo, he was having a panic attack, Dana said softly. That hug, that was him trying to breathe. Kate looked down at her hands. Dana continued. He played here that night. Midnight open mic. Shaking so bad I thought he might collapse. But then he sang. She paused. Her voice caught. It broke the room. Kate's throat ached. He didn't used to be like that. Dana tilted her head. Maybe he did, just not around you. They sat in the silence of clinking glasses and murmured conversations behind them. I offered him a drink after, Dana said, smiling. He asked for water. Kate let out a breath, a quiet, broken laugh. Of course he did. Dana's eyes warmed. He reminded me of my brother and a little of my husband before he passed. Brilliant, haunted, always trying to disappear just enough so no one would look too closely. Kate swallowed. He wrote me a song, she said. Dana nodded. He's written you hundreds, but yes, that one. He added a voicemail. Kate whispered. Mine. I know, Dana said. He asked me to press record. That's all I did. The rest was already in him. Kate's eyes were glassy. She blinked fast. Why does he keep writing about me? Dana didn't hesitate and winked. Because he still thinks you're listening. Kate stared at the plain silver ring on her finger. It wasn't from River. It wasn't from anyone. It was a habit now. Like a shield she forgot she wore. Now why I'm here, she said finally. Dana took her hand gently. Her skin was warm, soft with age, but strong. You're here, she said, because part of you still loves him, because even if he scared you, he also showed you something real. And because you're not done, Kate looked away. I think I broke him. Dana shook her head, slow and certain. You didn't, but you were there when he was already shattered. That's not the same thing. Kate's voice wavered. I didn't mean to leave him like that. I know. They were quiet again. Kate stared at the bar's polished wood. I didn't expect to like you. Dana chuckled softly. That makes two of us. Kate traced the rim of her water glass, the condensation leaving a faint ring beneath her fingers. The hollow lantern had started to fill out. Two men playing cards at a corner booth, a woman laughing too loudly at her phone. But the table between her and Dana felt like a bubble untouched by time. She wasn't sure how long it had been since she entered. Minutes, hours, a lifetime. Dana had gone quiet, politely letting her sit in the ache. She didn't prod, didn't explain. She just held space, and it made Kate want to cry more than anything else had in weeks. Finally, Kate cleared her throat. Do you know where he is? Her voice was too steady for how she felt. Dana didn't answer right away. She folded a bar towel slowly, then set it aside. I do. Something shifted in Kate's chest. Not relief. Not dread. Something heavier. More fragile. Is he all right? She asked. Dana tilted her head. Define all right. Kate bit her lip. Is he safe? Dana's gaze flicked to her, searching. Physically? Yes. He's been sleeping more. Eating. He's sober. He's quieter. Kate waited, but Dana didn't finish the thought. Quieter? How? Dana looked down at her hands, like he's making himself disappear. The words landed like a blow. Kate's fingers dug into her coat sleeves. I shouldn't have sent that email. No, Dana said gently. But you did. Kate nodded slowly. I didn't know what to say anymore. And maybe you should have said that. Kate let out a bitter breath. I always think I'm doing the right thing by pushing him away. Like I'm protecting both of us. Dana finally looked at her. Her eyes were steady. And maybe that's the truth. Or maybe it's just the story you tell yourself to justify the fear. Kate looked down. Dana's voice softened. He's not the same man you knew before. I know. No, Dana said more firmly. I mean it. He's not just wounded. He's working. He's trying. But every time he starts to rise, he looks back for you. And when you're not there, she trailed off. Kate blinked fast. I can't be what he needs. Did he ask you to be? Kate opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Dana watched her, something like compassion tightening the lines around her eyes. I've seen people drown from giving too much, Dana said. But I've also seen people starve themselves out of fear that love means loss. And that's no way to live either. The room was quiet again. Kate took a slow breath. Does he talk about me? Dana smiled, soft and sad. He doesn't have to. Every song he plays, you're in it. Every pause in conversation. Every time he looks at the door like he's expecting someone who's never coming. Kate's stomach twisted. Is he still performing? Now and then. When I can drag him out. He's careful, quiet, keep the mask on. But the music's darker, sadder, less hope. Kate's shoulders sagged. I did that. No, Dana said firmly. He's always carrying darkness. You just gave it a name. Kate laughed bitterly. You're too good at this. I've lived long enough to learn a few things. A beat. Kate looked at her, truly looked. Do you think he'd want to see me? Dana didn't blink. That depends. Are you here to say goodbye again? Kate flinched. No, she whispered. I don't think I am. Dana's eyes warmed. Then he'd want to see you. Kate stood outside the bar for a long moment after their conversation, her breath clouding faintly in the cooling night air. A lantern above her hummed in the breeze. She hadn't meant to stay this long. She hadn't meant to stay at all. She had thought she'd walk in, get answers, maybe even scream, and leave. But Dana had a way of making stillness feel like safety. When the door creaked open behind her, Kate startled. Dana stepped outside, wrapping a cardigan tighter around her arms. You didn't run, Dana said quietly. Kate managed a small, tired smile. I thought about it. I figured you had that look. Kate raised a brow. What look? The I'm already rehearsing my escape speech look. I've worn it myself more than once. Kate exhaled, her breath shaking. I don't know if I should be here. Dana nodded slowly. That's not a bad thing. People who know they could be wrong tend to do less damage. They stood quietly for a while, facing the sleepy street. Then Dana said, You have somewhere to stay tonight? Kate hesitated. No, I thought I'd just drive back. I don't want to be a burden. Dana turned to face her. You're not. I have a spare room above the bar. It's not fancy. Mismatched pillows, too many books, a bit of a draft, but it's clean, safe. Kate opened her mouth and closed it again. The urge to decline was automatic. She didn't accept help easily, especially not from someone connected to River. Dana watched her for a moment, then added gently, You've been carrying something heavy for a long time. Let someone else take the weight for a night. The words landed in her chest like a soft blow. Kate blinked fast, her jaw tightening. Okay, she said finally. Thank you. Dana smiled. Come on, I'll show you up. The stairs creaked as they climbed, the wood familiar under Dana's feet. Upstairs was a small flat with slanted ceilings and ivy pressing against the windows. It smelled faintly of thyme and lavender. There was a record player in the corner, an open book face down the armrest, and a photo of a dog Kate didn't recognize framed near the door. The guest room was small, cozy. Quilted blankets layered over the bed, a thick cardigan folded at the foot of it. Books were stacked haphazardly on the nightstand. Some titles Kate had read, others she'd always meant to. This used to be my son's room, Dana said, setting the key on the nightstand. He's grown now. I live abroad. Kate looked around. He has good taste. Dana smiled. He got it from me. Kate laughed softly, and for a moment, it didn't feel like grief pressing on her lungs. Dana lingered in the doorway. He's not here tonight, she said, more serious now. Kate blinked. River? Dana nodded. Working late? Night shift at the clinic. He does that sometimes. Says it keeps his mind off things. Kate looked down. I didn't know he was still working. He is. Barely. But he's trying. A beat. Dana crossed her arms. Would you like me to speak to him tomorrow? See if he wants to see you? Kate's stomach twisted. Do you think he'll say yes? Dana studied her. I think he'll be afraid, but I also think he's wanted this moment for a long time. So yes, I think he might. Kate's voice came out smaller than she meant. And if he doesn't, then you'll have tried, and you'll leave knowing you faced it. Kate nodded, slowly, almost imperceptibly. Dana stepped back. Rest now. You've done enough braving for one night. Kate sat on the bed after Dana left, eyes scanning the ceiling. It didn't look like hers, didn't feel like Berlin, didn't ache like it used to. It was just a ceiling. But her hands still trembled when she reached for the cardigan. River, the room smelled like mildew and old heartbreak. River hadn't opened the curtains in days. The air inside clung to the walls, damp, metallic, sour, a mixture of leaking pipes and something he couldn't name. Mold had started growing behind the sink. The floor creaked when he walked, even when he tiptoed. He didn't tiptoe anymore. He barely moved when he was home. Just paced, played, collapsed. Woke up aching. The ceiling had water damage. One corner had cracked and flaked so many times that it looked like it was bleeding paint, but he never looked up anymore. Not since the last time he'd imagined her voice whispering in the plaster. Kate's voice. He sat on the edge of the mattress, stained, low to the ground, no bed frame. staring at the wall where a poster used to hang, a velvet mask flyer. He'd ripped it down after the live stream glitch, after the scar showed, after the trolls flooded his inbox with screenshots and doctored photos and two familiar names. He hadn't slept properly since. There were pills in the drawer. Not the bad kind, not anymore. Just prescription meds from the surgery. The one Dana had all but dragged him to after he collapsed again at the bar. Gallbladder complications, post-operative infections, a fever that lasted 3 days. He'd hidden most of it, or laid it down. But Dana had known. She always knew. And now she was banging on his door again. River. Her voice from the hallway. Not angry, frustrated, tired, worried. He flinched. Open this damn door. Don't make me call Adam again. He sighed, shoved his hair back with a wince, and limped toward the lock. The pain was still there, dull and dragging, like his body was reminding him it hadn't forgiven him for years of neglect. He opened the door. Dana stepped inside immediately, pushing past him like she'd earned the right, and she had. Her eyes scanned the room once, and she let out a guttural, Christ alive, River. He didn't speak. Is this how you're living? She asked, stepping over a tipped-over mug. I thought you said the landlord fixed the leak. He said he did. Well, he lied. She crossed her arms. And you believed him? I didn't care. That's the bloody problem. He looked away. Dana stepped closer, softer now. You can't stay here. I've stayed worse. Don't make me slap you with a tea towel, boy. He almost smiled. Almost. Dana made him sit down while she opened windows, propped open the bathroom door, flushed the sink drain with vinegar she'd brought in a mason jar. She cursed under her breath the whole time, but only half at him. When she finally sat down, she didn't look at him, just said, You're coming to me. No. Yes. He didn't respond. You'll pay rent if that makes you feel better. Same as you're paying this hellhole. I won't take charity either. He stared at the worn blanket bunched on the bed. It's not about that. Then what's it about? He didn't answer. Dana exhaled. You've got surgical glue still healing. You need soft food, clean water, airflow, not to mention company. What are you waiting for, River? To rot into the floor? I just need a few weeks. No, you don't. He stayed quiet. Then Dana said, quieter. This about the boys? His head jerked slightly. She knew. Of course she did. He clenched his jaw. They were just walking by. Outside the pharmacy, one had that little puff of blonde curls. The other was pretending to be a dragon. Dana nodded slowly. Just like them. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even move. That's grief. No. His voice cracked. That's punishment. Dana looked at him for a long moment. Her face was tired, sad. River, you didn't do this to yourself. And even if you did, that doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. I miss them. I know. I miss her. Even when I hate her. Dana said nothing for a long while, then she's not here. But I am. So come stay with me or I'm calling Adam. He didn't fight anymore. The sheets were fresh. A teacup was waiting by the bedside table, and a small box of his music equipment and belongings was already stacked neatly in the corner. She'd preemptively packed it from the bar. He sat on the bed. There was a small photo beside the lamp. It was of Dana in her 20s, hugging a man, probably her husband, both of them grinning like life hadn't hit yet. River touched the edge of the frame, then leaned back. He hadn't cried when he moved his stuff. He hadn't cried since Vera. But that night, as he lay in Dana's spare room, listening to the faint hum of the old fridge downstairs and the thump of her dog's paws on the floor, he let himself cry. Not because he was afraid, but because, for the first time in weeks, someone had noticed the difference between him being silent and him being gone. River sat at the kitchen table in Dana's flat, a tangle of clinic files spread in front of him, and a lukewarm mug of black tea at his side. The room smelled faintly of rosemary and old wood, and safety. A strange, unfamiliar safety, the kind that crept up slowly instead of announcing itself. It had been 3 nights since he moved. He still didn't know how to sit comfortably in someone else's calm. The room he stayed in, Dana's son's old room, was too neat, too curated. Books on the shelf about photography and history, a chessboard tucked into the closet. A string of fairy lights still worked when plugged in. A Polaroid photo taped beside the window showed a boy with Dana's eyes grinning at the sea. River hadn't touched it, just stared at it some nights, like it might explain something he was missing. He wasn't used to being cared for without strings. When he collapsed at the clinic last month, pale, sweating, breath shallow, they'd had to call Dana. He was so dehydrated from vomiting post-surgery. He barely registered when she pressed her hand to his forehead and muttered, Idiot boy, why didn't you say anything? He didn't say anything because saying something meant admitting it still hurt, that anything could still hurt him at all. Kate had said once, years ago, that he shut down when it got too close, that he built walls from within, that he performed vulnerability without ever opening the door. She hadn't been wrong. Dana padded in now, barefoot, drying her hands on a dish towel. You're still working? He nodded. You got that look again. What look? The look that says if you don't stay busy, your thoughts might eat you. He let out a slow breath. I'm fine. Dana poured herself coffee and sat. You're functioning. Not the same thing. He tapped his pen twice against the paper. I just need to get through this week. And then what? Start another? River looked down. Dana sipped. Are you still not sleeping? Not really? Nightmares? No, just memories. Dana reached over and gently flipped the page he was staring at upside down. Take a break. He didn't argue, because some part of him, the one that still saw Vera and Dana's strength, still felt like a boy sitting in his mother's kitchen, trusted her more than he trusted himself. Later that night, River stood under the shower until the water turned cold. The flat had one of those old radiators that clicked when it got too hot. The pipes moaned when the hot water ran too long. It was a familiar soundtrack now, part of the silence he'd started making peace with. He leaned his forehead against the tile. The stitches itched less now. The scar pulled a little when he twisted, but not enough to worry. Still, the hospital smell hadn't fully left his skin. Another scar, he thought. Another thing she never saw. When he thought of Kate, it wasn't just her voice or her mouth or the way she curled her knees up when she read on the couch. It was the after, the Berlin morning, her silence, her doubt. But mostly, the boys. He'd loved them without trying. He still did. He still remembered their questions, their drawings, the way they argued about whether unicorns could cry or if dragons got cold. They haunted him more than Kate did some nights. He closed his eyes, exhaled into the steam. Maybe he was disappearing. Not the tragic kind, not gone, just faded. Like an old film print no one preserved. Still visible, still moving, but bleached by time and too many replays. Dana was already awake when River padded into the kitchen. She had eggs on the stove and a small vase of fresh lilacs on the table. He wondered if she picked them this morning or if someone had brought them. She didn't look at him when she spoke. Bad night? River shrugged. Usual. Still dreaming of them? No. He paused. Worse. I wake up thinking they're here. Dana flipped the eggs. What would you do if they were? He didn't answer. She glanced over. You're allowed to want love, River, even when you think you don't deserve it. I don't think I don't deserve it, he murmured. I just think I ruined it. Dana turned off the burner and slid eggs onto a plate. That's what my husband said, right before he left the fifth time. River looked up. He was brilliant, she said. Brilliant, broken man. Never stayed long enough to believe he could be loved for real. I'm not your husband. No, she said. But you're both better men than you think. He sat at the table quietly. Dana set the plate in front of him and poured tea without asking how he liked it. She already knew. I wish Vera could see you now, she said gently. You're trying. That one word gutted him more than any praise could have. Trying. It wasn't redemption, but it was a direction. He reached for the tea. Thanks for not giving up on me, he said. Dana smiled. I never did. You just forgot how to let people stay. The hollow lantern was just beginning to warm with the scent of rosemary bread and buttered onions when River slung his satchel over his shoulder. He hadn't posted a new song in 2 weeks. Not since Ghost Don't Let Go. He still got tagged on edits, lyrics scrawled in notebooks, comments from people who claimed they'd played the track on loop until the silence between the lines became its own language. But he hadn't had it in him to respond, not to the fans, not to the praise, not to the ache. That song had been too much and not enough. He checked his Velvet Mask account briefly on the walk to the clinic. One new message from an anonymous burner. Just a voice note. Your voice makes people think heartbreak is beautiful. Stop. He didn't even flinch anymore. He just deleted it. At the crosswalk, he dialed Laura. She answered on the second ring, warm and familiar. River? Her voice hit like a comfort he didn't know he still had. Hey, he said softly. Sorry. I know it's early. Nonsense. I was just peeling potatoes. A pause. Are you all right? He could have lied. But something in her tone, that Berlin lilt woven with motherliness, made him honest. I don't know, he admitted. Oh, sweetheart. He paused at a corner waiting for the light to change. It's strange, I guess, not being anyone's anything anymore. You'll always be something to someone, she said firmly. Or you were something to my daughter, still are, whether she admits it or not. River swallowed. How is she? Laura didn't answer right away. She's hurting, she said finally, but I think she's starting to remember that hurt isn't the end. He nodded, even though she couldn't see him. Are you still playing? She asked. A bit. Then she'll hear you, River. She always did. He closed his eyes. You sound like Vera. I'll take that as the highest compliment. He smiled, just a little. When he got off the phone, the world felt slightly less sharp, but only slightly. River arrived at the clinic 10 minutes before shift. The fluorescent lights were too bright. The coffee smelled burnt. Someone left a clipboard face down with smeared blood on the back. Common mistake, but it made his stomach twist anyway. He washed his hands twice before seeing a patient. Dana had told him once, clean your hands like you're trying to erase a memory, not a germ. It stuck with him more than most advice did. Trauma bay was quiet, few standard cases. A broken wrist, teenager with concussion from rugby. He stitched someone's knuckle after a pub brawl and kept his voice level while the man cursed about the price of beer. At noon, he finally grabbed a yogurt and sat in the far corner of the staff room, head against the cool tile. He didn't want to be here, but where else was there? He took the last bite just as the trauma call came in. Elderly woman, single car accident, head trauma, unstable vitals. ETA 5 minutes. River stood. His hands were already shaking. She came in on a stretcher, small, white-haired oxygen mask strapped too tight, a gash across her forehead that bled like it meant to tell a story. Her cardigan was soaked, one slipper missing. Her chest rose in shallow gasps. Paramedics shouted vitals over the din. River's heart dropped the moment he saw her, not because she looked like Vera, but because she smelled like her. Lilac perfume, the same one Vera used to keep in her drawer, tucked behind rosary beads and a box of letters from River's childhood. He froze for just half a second, but it was long enough that the nurse beside him touched his shoulder. Doctor? I'm fine, he lied. Page radiology. We need a head CT, full trauma panel, and gown her carefully. She's got rib tenderness. He moved through the motions, hands steady, voice professional, but his brain felt like it was glitching, stuttering between past and present. One moment he was adjusting her oxygen mask, the next he was 17 again, watching Vera sleep in a hospital bed with wires everywhere, too tired to speak. He clenched his jaw. He couldn't lose this one too. As the woman blinked at him, confused and afraid, he leaned close. You're safe, he whispered. And for a heartbeat, the eyes looking up at him felt too familiar. They admitted her to the ward just after dusk. The scan had shown a minor brain bleed. Not enough for surgery, but enough to monitor. Her name was Eileen. She was 82 and had lost control of the car while driving home from visiting her sister's grave. Her hands still smelled faintly of roses and soap, the kind River remembered from church mornings and childhood memories he didn't want to examine too closely. He came to check on her just before shift change. Eileen was propped up in bed, a knit blanket pulled around her knees. Her oxygen had been turned down, the bleeding had stopped. Her hair was brushed. She looked more like someone's beloved grandmother than a trauma code. She smiled when she saw him. You've got sad eyes, doctor. River blinked. She patted the edge of the bed. Come sit, I won't bite. He hesitated, then sat. Her fingers were wrinkled and paper thin as they reached for his hand. I had a son once, looked like you. Too serious for his own good, carried the weight of the world like he was born with it stitched into his coat. River didn't speak. Eileen squeezed gently. I bet you've loved someone you lost. He looked down. Yes, ma'am. She smiled. And someone you left before you were ready. He nodded. She didn't press, just looked at him the way Vera used to when he came home late, expecting scolding and getting soup. Sometimes, she said, the kindest thing we do is just stay, even when we're scared, even when we're hurting. Staying is a form of love, you know. He couldn't look at her. Not when her voice sounded so much like memory and mercy wrapped into one.